For over half a century, teenage girls have howled themselves hoarse at the sight of male pop stars.
This group is very popular with young girls.
But for about as long as young females have swooned over boy bands like One Direction, the Backstreet Boys, and the latest K-pop sensation BTS, males have been mostly hating them.
It's a boy band from Korea.
Every member of One Direction is gay.
I don't like K-pop. I hate K-pop.
One Direction should kill themselves.
Hey guys, it's Donna. So, I have been sitting on this topic for a while now because there are so many theories as to why dudes hate boy bands, and more recently, K-pop. And, okay, I'm not talking about that typical disliking of a thing. Like, I personally don't hate me, but I don't like anything Marvel or superhero these days. Sorry, nerds. So that's it. Like, I don't go out of my way to comment on some Marvel trailer. Hey, come up with something new, losers. Like, even though, like, a lot of this stuff is, like, pushed in my face, who cares? Like, I move on with my day, find something else to watch, and I feel like that's the normal way to dislike a thing. Like, no one should be forced to like something just because everyone else likes it. Today, we aren't talking about that. We are talking about that visceral hate boy bands get. Mostly, it seems like, from males. Not all dudes, obviously, but a large proportion of anti-boy band sentiment does seem to come from males. But first, we need to define boy band for the context of this video, because there doesn't seem to be any sort of universal definition out there.
The list by Billboard, for example, which ranks 100 greatest boy band songs, classifies NSYNC, Jackson 5, and The Monkees as boy bands. Their basic definition, and this isn't verbatim, is being boy band core, whatever that means. Harmonies and dancing, matching outfits, and major pop choruses. By their definition, quartet groups of the 20s and 50s and gospel groups should be classified as boy bands. But this isn't the image that typically comes to mind when we think of that phrase. The Beatles are also thrown into the mix and often the point of contention for this definition. The predominantly youthful female hysteria surrounding the Beatles' rise to fame certainly looked like today's boy band craze, which prompts some to classify the group as a boy band. However, others classify them as a rock band because of the group's aesthetic and culture. Because of this continued debate, we are going to go with the definition found on Wikipedia.
A boy band is loosely defined as a vocal group consisting of young male singers, usually in their teenage years or in their 20s at the time of formation, singing love songs marketed towards girls. Many boy bands dance as well as sing, usually giving high choreographed performances. K-pop usually also have designated rappers. Being vocal groups, most boy band members do not play musical instruments. So if we were using that definition, we would have to axe the Beatles from being grouped in the boy band category. They composed most of their songs, and they do play musical instruments.
It's not a perfect definition by no means, because it does leave out groups that people usually think of as boy bands, such as the Jonas Brothers. But, again, for the context of this video, we need to solidify this definition. So, we will be talking about boy bands that are intentional creations of music industry operatives, who audition large pools of candidates, electing the top 4 or 5 were then coached to be slick performance ensembles.
Now you can pretty much tell by looking at crowd footage at these concerts, or, just talking to the people that you're surrounded by, that typically boy bands have a young female fan base. We can see this claim even substantiated in the ticket sales of bands like BTS, the fan base of Why Don't We and One Direction. Our Reddit poll even asked if there were any K-pop boy bands that had a majority male fan base. Short answer, no.
Now, I get it. This still doesn't mean that males necessarily hate boy bands. They could just be ignoring them. However, more substantive evidence comes from Mark Duffett's 2012 article in Popular Music History, where he catalogs the myriad Facebook pages dedicated to trashing various boy bands. 1 page for the Backstreet Boys, 2 for Boyzone, 3 for One Direction, 4 for Westlife, 5 for JLS, even more for McFly, and so on. All in all, Duffett calls Facebook a thriving culture of hate pages that target boy bands and their followers. The Backstreet Boys are little girls. My girlfriend loves them. The same stupid shit. They're gay. I wish death upon them. He claims there's remarkable consistency in the anti-fan comments, and the comments' contents look much more like male talk than female. Whether this represents the majority opinion of males is unclear. However, there are good theoretical reasons for where this animosity stems from.
Here we are with the Backstreet Boys.
Hey, let's have
Oh, it was Kevin.
The girls love them. It was Kevin they wanted?
It had to be Kevin.
Kevin? AJ it was? You
I
guys...
thought it was myself.
So, when I was initially doing my research for this video, I found that the internet has pretty much settled on two conclusions as to where this hate comes from. First one is that boy band hate is deep-rooted in misogyny. Second, males tend to hate them because they feel inauthentic and manufactured. Now, I don't disagree with these conclusions entirely, but to me, in my honest opinion, they don't really paint the full picture. I found tons of examples that kind of debunk or disprove this logic just a little bit.
For instance, in the case of misogyny, this opinion piece called The Social Implications of Dismissing Boy Bands by High S states, and anything marketed to teenage girls specifically is coded as silly or bad by everyone else. Teenage girls are still used as the punchline of jokes, especially when they are portrayed as vapid, boy crazy, and shallow.
I'm ready to get it on, but there's no getting on till I'm ready.
Yeah, I've seen this play out plenty of times with things teen girls like. But there are also a good amount of content that is catered for teen girls that are left alone, praised even. Netflix shows To All the Boys I've Loved Before, musical artist Harry Styles, and actor Timothée Chalamet all have a large young female demographic, but don't nearly receive as much criticism from the anti-boy band males. Like, One Direction has been booed, but Harry Styles, not so much. So we're not necessarily dismissing misogyny, but it doesn't seem to paint the full picture. Did it just disappear? We can make a similar conclusion for those who claim boy bands get hate because they're inauthentic and manufactured. Again, to some degree this may be true, but a lot of mainstream artists are manufactured in some way. Rumors of industry plants in other genres are littered all over the internet. It just can't be acknowledged because their image is that started from the bottom narrative. Boy bands are openly manufactured. Consider One Direction, who all auditioned for X Factor as solo performers. However, early in the season, they were advised to pool their talents, and so they did. Their group came together as a result of the industry, and they were very open with that. Now, when you look at an entertainment form that is also openly manufactured, but caters to males like the WWE, such negative response is nowhere to be found. Fans of the WWE argue that it's a show. The fun of it includes getting lost in the storyline. Now, you can apply that same logic to boy bands, yet they don't receive the same consideration.
Rather than just inauthenticity and misogyny, I think a bigger clue to where this hate comes from can be found in what the actual hate is saying.
In his analysis of online boy band hate, Duffett makes the following observation. Anti-fan comments suggest that boy bands are overrated, pointless, and talentless, manufactured groups of young, insincere, probably gay men who will never last in the pop music field because they primarily rely on their looks to peddle cheesy or sacrilegious cover versions to legions of seduced fans. The current themes expressed by boy band anti-fans are revealing. 1. Boy bands lack skills, and 2. They're gay.
Both seem to be direct attacks on mate quality, which suggests there may be an evolutionary explanation for this hatred. Remember, they aren't just being ignored. some of these guys have active anti-fans.
Humans are largely pair-bonding species, with both partners contributing to the rearing of offspring. Decades of evolutionary psychology research have provided an outline of what each heterosexual sex is looking for in a mate. For females, 2 criteria are paramount. 1, good genetics, and 2, investment potential. A simple lesson in each can be found in 2 classic coming-of-age movies. First, from the 1986 movie Lucas. Lucas is an awkward, nerdy, diminutive 14-year-old who has fallen hard for the kind-hearted 16-year-old Maggie. In one scene, Maggie and Lucas discuss why she only likes him as a friend.
The males who demonstrate physical prowess are the most attractive to the females. And by breeding with the strongest males, the females ensure survival of the species.
Though oversimplified, it captures the basic idea behind the female preference for good genetics. Broad shoulders, square jaw, and a strong athletic build are outward indicators of good genetics in a male, which helps ensure robust, healthy offspring. These are the studs. Lucas lost to a stud. Since human offspring are highly dependent, females have evolved to also favor males that can provide both material and emotional support, i.e., investment. A skilled, socially, intellectually, physically male with the potential to achieve financial success and high social status is preferred over a less skilled, lower status male, as was aptly expressed in 2004's surprise hit teen movie Napoleon Dynamite.
Have you asked anybody yet?
No, but who would? I don't even have any good skills.
What do you mean?
Girls only want boyfriends who have great skills.
This male would be an investor.
So if we were to look at this from an evolutionary lens, the perfect male mate would be one with both good genetics and skills. But that's rare in the real world. That's too idealistic. Usually, males are stronger in one category or the other. This categorical distinction between studs and investors gets increasingly emphasized during adolescence, when the mating competition grows intense.
Research has actually observed a sort of rivalry between studs and investors in adolescent cliques. In a study by De Bruin and Westfield, cross-culturally, researchers identified 3 broad teenage groups: socially populars, popularistics, and unpopulars. Unpopulars are outcasts who have little or no social influence.
Imagine being called unpopular by scientists. The nerdiest of nerdiest professions just called you unpopular.
The other 2 groups are popular groups whose members wield influence in the adolescent social culture. Note, popular is defined by influence, not likability. A major difference between the 2 groups is that the popularistics sometimes use antisocial behavior to get what they want. Socially populars do not. Specifically among boys, the popularistics are the tough boys. The socially populars are the model boys. Tough boys drink, smoke, fight, and chafe at authority far more than the model boys. Model boys are more academically and socially skilled than tough boys. Tough boys are bullies. Model boys are sweet talkers.
I'm sorry, did someone say my name?
Both are more physically attractive, fashionable, and have higher mate value than unpopulars. The battle for the highest quality females is between the tough boys and model boys. Though the alignment isn't perfect, the tough boys correspond more to studs, while the model boys correspond to investors.
So, as the study inferred, competition for mates is between the tough boys, the studs, males whose strength lie in their genetics, and the model boys, the investors, males whose strength lie mostly in their skills. Imagine what'll happen when media portrays the perfect mate as the model boy. You can bet that most of the hate will be from the rivals, the tough boys.
In the past, mate competition was restricted to a local peer group of a dozen or so. Today, we compete globally with the contrived images that bombard us on the internet. television, and in magazines, including images of boy bands.
Have you ever just read a bunch of studies and thought, there is no way? Like, for sure, there is something to be said about the mostly male hate towards these boy bands, but all this over mate competition? No way. There's just no way. My arm hurts. Let me put this on a tripod. Alright, you already know the drill. We gotta see if you guys kind of fit with this mold as well. So I asked you guys on Instagram, calling all K-pop/boy band haters. If you have ever hated boy bands or K-pop in any way in the past, I need you guys to answer this question. What have you said in the past that criticized boy bands? That's not verbatim. So if this study applies to you guys as well, if you were a male and you answered this question, your critiques should be criticizing the band's mate value or their skills. They don't have any talent, they're manufactured anyway. They're all fake, or they're gay. They're fake and gay. As a side note, if you want to be part of these videos, you know what you have to do? You gotta follow me on Instagram. So weirdly, or maybe not weirdly, a lot of males did share the same sentiment. They're only popular because of their aesthetic. Overrated dudes that ordinary guys just don't stand a chance against. Fringe, corny. Also, where I'm from, North Africa, we're not okay with soft boys. Makeup. Despite being music groups, BTS themselves do very little in creating their songs. The fact that their popularity is based more on their looks and because they're Korean. I'm pretty sure I could kick their asses. I was actually really surprised with the results because I didn't think these would apply to my audience. I always felt that my audience was older and have been kind of out of that hating phase. But to be fair, I did ask, what have you said in the past? So maybe these guys are recalling what they've said before. So I did let the ladies answer as well, but unfortunately I couldn't find any studies that related boy band hate to girls. So if there are like female boy band haters, I haven't seen any consensus on why they would hate boy bands. So I'm just gonna guess. I'm guessing the ladies may hate boy bands because they perceive this as a manipulation of teenage girls. The bands just make some people crazy. Also, I feel like they outshine girl bands. Coming from a girl, I think that their music is pretty mediocre. They have been way too overhyped. My major problem is with the toxic fan base of your girl they have created, and the unrealistic beauty. Some girls also share the same sentiment as the boys. I'm a girl. In the past, I have complained about the extremely manufactured bands. So I was wrong. There didn't seem to be a pattern, in my audience at least, that related the female gender to the type of hate they had for boy bands. Their criticisms were pretty much all over the place. Some guys also shared the same concern that the girls had. It's the constant obsession over every activity and the stan culture that drives from that. The only criticism that makes sense. They all smell like poop.
Arizona State University social psychologist Douglas Kendrick found that men who were repeatedly exposed to media images of beautiful women reported decreased satisfaction and commitment to their wives or girlfriends. Similarly, women exposed to images of dominant, high-status men showed a decline in love and commitment to their husbands and boyfriends.
Now, no, I'm not saying with those studies that you should delete every hot influencer that your boyfriend or girlfriend follows. It does show, however, that media can affect how you view potential mates. Sensibly, it should also affect how you view competition.
Boy bands typically combine their dancing, their prowess, with song lyrics, explicitly touting their mate quality. They crone their faithfulness to that special one, and pledge to treat her better than the other guy. As a musical commodity, it has been argued that boy bands are really boyfriend bands, a product designed to exploit adolescent biology. Their marketing and performances are mating appeals. They demonstrate desirable skills, and, given their obvious success, they have an abundance of material resources that they lyrically vow to bestow upon their girlfriends. In the teenage mating context, they are the socially popular investor males, and this makes them a target of the popularistic stud males. Tough boys often use bullying to give them an edge in mating competition. They aim their bullying attack directly at the opposition's strength, their skills. Since they are neither musicians nor songwriters, boy bands' talents are a shame. Forget them, girls. They will quickly fade as their status and wealth. They are fraudulent investors. Whatever weaknesses this claim might have can be backstopped by the charge of homosexuality. Even if they do have skills, status, and material resources, they aren't going to share them with you because, well, they're gay. In an ironic twist, boy band hate is a triumph. If, as the tough boys claim, boy bands were talentless, then they'd be ignored. The fact that they generate such invective stands as evidence that they are very good at what they do. Many boy band members have grown and surpassed the fame of their boy band days.
Alright, so what do you think about this theory? To me, the evolutionary perspective does explain the hate a lot better. You can kind of see a similar kind of hate happening to mostly young male influencers. They get called gay, talentless, etc. And for sure, the TikTokers are cringe. But like, if it makes money, wouldn't you do it too? It also does seem to explain why older boy band members get less hate as they grow older. Maybe their haters have grown older as well. They're married, so it doesn't matter really anymore. But I don't know. What do you think? That's the end of the video. I will see you guys next time. Stay psyched.